Hello friends, family, and everybody else. I'm Denzel and I'm going to be reviewing James Gunn's Superman movie. Superman! Now yes, I'm decked out in my Superman gear because it's only appropriate that we wear super gear when we're talking about the super movie of last year. This movie was really good. I love this movie. I'm going to go in detail about all the things that I loved about this movie from 2025 Superman. Now, to first start off, Superman is my favorite character.
Favorite? That's my favorite!
In all mediums, and movies, books, comics, all of that. And to see it fleshed out with James Gunn's skills of movie making was very pleasing to watch, to say the least. In this series, he brings together Superman, played by David Corenswet, to life. There's Lois Lane, Lex Luthor, and then a gang of other superheroes. But for the foremost, the plot of this movie deals with Superman having to come to terms with Lex Luthor framing him.
I was framed, beaten.
Using the media and then framing him to the people as a person that's out to get them and to rule over them. Originally the movie was going to be called Superman Legacy, but it was then changed to Superman, which makes sense either way. But the way in which he does this is that Superman has a video in his Fortress of Solitude, which is similar to Batman.
To the Batcave!
If you're familiar, they have their own little base, their superhero base. For Superman, it's the Fortress of Solitude in Antarctica with this big castle made out of crystal. Now, while he was gone from there, Lex Luthor was able to come in, take video footage, retrieve it that Superman was not able to take, and able to get info that his parents wanted him to make a harem, rule over the world, and take over human beings pretty much as almost like a god to them.
God.
Superman, who had only a piece of that video, believed that his parents wanted them to take care of people, and he used it as a video where he would sit in his chair to uplift him. And when he found out that this video's extra part that he couldn't decode because it was damaged had showed that they wanted him to rule the world, he was bummed out bad by it. But in the midst of this, while he's trying to frame Superman as a bad person to the people of Metropolis and the world, and Lex Luthor is also scheming with a dictator to take over another country, and by using this he could get Superman out the way using the government, and him and this dictator can take over this other country and do a genocide on their people and take the land for themselves.
I'm the dictator.
Superman has a group of friends. Lois, his love interest in this movie, and his friend Jimmy Olsen, who they work at the Daily Planet. Those are his regular friends, but then he also has a group of friends called the Justice Gang, or so they might be called in this film, consisting of Guy Gardner, who's a Green Lantern. If you're familiar with, he has a power of a ring that could create any type of imaginary object that he wants. There's Mr. Terrific, who has intelligent, and he's got tech called spheres that do different things in this film that he uses to take out people. Then there's Hawk Girl, who has wings and a mace that she beats their enemies with. There's also this new guy named Element Man, create elements out of himself. After stopping an almost dinosaur-like creature, which is a kaiju that Lex Luthor had put to distract Superman, all these super people had to stop this kaiju. And that's when Lex was able to go to Superman's lair and get that video to frame him. They make a point to show Superman saving people and being helpful to the people around him. He saves a squirrel. He saves a woman. And he didn't want to kill the kaiju. The Justice Gang ended up doing it because they're worried about casualties. But this shows that Superman is a good guy. Meanwhile, he goes back to his home after being framed, and he meets with Lois Lane. Big theme in this film that I like that they address in this superhero film, because a lot of superhero films nowadays, they don't really go into what being a hero is. You watch a superhero nowadays, you think, oh, you kick a bad guy's ass and then you like do some edgy badass poses. That's what a superhero is. That shows that Superman is kind of like a community service dude, and he cares about people, and he's a role model. He's not just a dude that fights, you know, there's a little bit more to it than fight scenes. In it, he's back at home, and Lois asks him about the whole video, and she says, "You have a dog?" And Superman is talking about, "Yes, I have an adoptive dog, and he's gone." And he talks about needing to get the dog back. Well, with Lois, she tells him that he's naive and that he thinks that everybody is beautiful and good. And they make a point to say in the line, he says, because they were speaking about punk rock music, well, he says, well, maybe that's the real punk rock. And the theme of this is that he's unapologetically caring and does his job, which is saving people. And she sees that in him, and she's kind of like, she's understanding him in that moment, you could tell. But he tells her he's gonna have to turn himself in to get the dog. And she's like, what? He says, that dog's helpless and I gotta figure out what's going on, so it's best if I turn myself in, because the world thinks that I'm trying to take him over. This would be the best way to fix things out. He turns himself into the government, which with Lex's framing was able to get power to arrest Superman. They arrest him, and they specifically talk about saying, you're an alien, so you don't get rights. We don't have to read you your Miranda rights and all that. So they arrest him pretty much illegally, and they throw him in some machine that takes him to a pocket dimension. A pocket dimension that is like connected to a black hole. And then you see people jailed in there. Exes of Lex, his political opponents, all that stuff in here. And as you can tell, this movie is making hits at real life. In this comic book movie, they're bringing in real life scenarios, people being taken in without their Miranda rights. But anyway, he's there, and then Lex takes a citizen and shoots a citizen in the head right in front of Superman to dig at him. And he says he wants to know Superman, where he came from, yada yada yada. In the end, he wanted to kill somebody in front of Superman to get at him personally. Superman is put into a cell and is locked with a dude called the Element Man. Metamorpho is also another name he goes by. And Metamorpho creates kryptonite, which is Superman's weakness, to stop him from being able to escape. And it's shown that his baby is being held at another part of this black hole place, so that if he does anything, they're gonna hurt Metamorpho's kid, blackmailing him to stop Superman with his kryptonite. So in it, Metamorpho is shaken that Lex had shot somebody in the head right in front of him. And then he speaks to Superman. He's like, can you save my son? And then maybe we can get out of this. Superman's like, yeah. Takes the kryptonite away. Superman's still weak. And he's like, what's wrong with you? And Superman's like, I'm powered by the sun. And he's like, okay. So he creates a small version of the sun with his element powers and shines to give Superman power. They're able to escape their lockage part and then get the baby. Meanwhile, he's being locked up. Lois Lane was looking for him. She goes to the Justice Gang with Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and then Mr. Terrific, and then convinces only Terrific for some reason that he's like, okay, we'll go try to save Superman. Mr. Terrific is able to locate him, and the machine that takes him to the black hole spot unlocks the black hole and allows Metamorpho, Superman's dog, which they save, and the baby all to escape. They escape, Superman's weakened, they go home. And in this part, they show Superman going home to his parents, and Lois gets to meet his parents. And Lois is able to see his punk rock stuff in his room, get to know him more as a person, and you can see her growing a bigger connection with him. And while this is going on, Superman's talking to his dad, and he's like, I'm bummed out. My parents wanted me to rule the world and take over people like some type of ruler. And then his dad makes a point to say, and this is like an Uncle Ben moment in the film, if you've ever watched Spider-Man, with their speech where they give advice to the kids. He says, your parents aren't for telling you what to do. Your parents are for giving you the tools to make fools of yourself. And he says to him, the fact that you thought your parents wanted you to save people and help them tells more about you than any of the nonsense that's going on. He says, your actions define who you are, not the framing of what people say you are. And then he says to him, I'm so proud of you, and I couldn't be proud of you. It was a good heartfelt moment. And then Superman is like, it lifts him up. He feels good about what he just had heard. Now that he's back, Lex Luthor is pissed, but then he also has plans to continue past that and take over the land with that dictator they were talking about. Lex had a girlfriend named Miss Tessmacher, who back at the Daily Bugle was a connect to Jimmy Olsen, who she had a relationship with Jimmy Olsen. She feeds information to Jimmy Olsen where they're able to find out Lex Luthor's plan and their plans to take over the world, Metropolis, and frame Superman. Knowing this, he plans to use his black hole thing to destroy Metropolis so that he could have land elsewhere. They detail all this info to Superman, and Superman has to go and fight Lex, his minions, and try to save the day. Now, let me get into the bad guys he has to fight. One of the dudes he has to fight is called Ultraman, a dude that wears a black suit over his body and has all of Superman's powers. And Superman has no idea why. Then he has to fight a woman whose ability to create, well, she's like, believe the words nanites. He has to fight her in the mix of all this, her and the Superman. And if those two aren't able to take out Superman, he has a group of regular people in suits that can fly. They're called Raptors. He has to take them out. So this is the big climax of the film. Ultraman had fought and beaten Superman earlier in the film, but now is the good climax where he has to take him out. So in this film, it has very good action scenes. You get the action scene where he first fights Ultraman. You get the part where he fights the kaiju, and then there's a part where he has to break out of the black hole spot. Here, the big climax is where it all comes to the big fight. So he's fighting Ultraman who's being fed information through some type of, I don't know if it's a radio, but he's communicating to Ultraman, telling him what moves to do. He's telling him moves that he's prepped to destroy Superman, that he studied. He's got them all mapped out where he's like 1B, 22-3, a whole bunch of poignant moves he has to beat Superman. And then he's fighting this chick who has nanites, and during the fight, she puts nanites in Superman's throat, and they want to clog up his lungs to make sure he can't breathe. So in order to stop her, he flies up out of Earth's atmosphere into space, similar to what Iron Man did in one of his movies. Spoiler alert. And then he flies back down to Earth and smashes, incapacitating her and just leaving him and Ultraman. And these fight scenes are great. I like how Superman, people are not used to Superman having to deal with difficulties, but I like that Superman has to come up with an actual idea to outwit and then outmaneuver the bad guys. It's not just muscle. There's like creativity in the fight scenes. After he incapacitates her, he's back with Ultraman, whose mask is ripped up and shown that Lex Luthor had made a clone of Superman. Ultraman is not another character. He's a clone of Superman being controlled by Lex. Lex reveals that this Ultraman guy is kind of stupid and he's being fed information by him. Superman, knowing that, sees these machines that feeds information to Ultraman, and he's like, okay, I got an idea. Lex goes on this big soliloquy where he tells Superman, you're making us look bad, human beings, superhero freaks like you. And he shows his envy. And he says to Superman, brain beats brawn. And he's beating Superman. And Superman smiles because he has an idea. And then Lex Luthor says to him through the radios, what are you smiling at, you idiot? And then Superman says, well, brain beats brawn. He whistles and he calls in Krypto. And Krypto takes out all the machines that Lex uses to communicate to Ultraman. While he's doing this, Ultraman doesn't have the information that he was being given, the fight maneuvers. 1A, 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 1B, yada, yada, yada. He doesn't have that now. Now Superman's fighting him mano a mano, and he's going to town. There's a part where he punches. He does like a punch, and then Ultraman flies and smacks a rock. There's a part where Ultraman tries to like shoot some I-beams. Superman spins out the way and like curb stomps his head on the floor, and then you see him have like the heroic like little pose there. And while he's doing that, Lex is like, okay, call in the Raptors. These are the people with tech. They have flying machines like jetpacks, and they all circle and try to like get on Superman. Superman flies in the air, spins, and the music hits, and they all fling off him because he's that powerful. And then it pans in on the S, and it looks super sweet. And then he shoots his eyes and does a 360 laser beam that takes out like 30 people in like, I think it's like 10 seconds. He wipes out the Raptor dudes. And it's just an awesome visual cinematic action scene. And I heard people complaining about Superman like not being strong enough, like he doesn't do enough on his own in the film. I'm like, There's like literally zero superhero movies where a dude takes out 30 people within like 10 to 5 seconds all on his own with like a breath of ease. Like he did that like it was like there was nothing to it. Takes him out, and Ultraman gets back up, and the way that Superman takes him out is that he throws him into the black hole which Lex had made, so Ultraman can't escape that. Now he comes back face to face with Lex, and then he explains to Lex, after knocking Ultraman into the black hole, he gets up to Lex and he tells Lex, well, he's about to take him and capture him. Lex says, "You're an idiot and you're not like us, you're not human." And then Superman makes a point to say, "Hey, I work, I hurt, I feel, and I care. And I put my shoes on and take my steps one at a time just like everybody else. That's what makes me human. That's what makes me a person, and that's my power." And they make a point to making of Superman a relatable person. He's a self-deprecating person. He's not like I'm a perfect god or some garbage like that. No, he's like, nah, I'm a regular dude, yo. And I think that's kind of cool. Instead of like trying to dehumanize Superman, they show him as a person, which is not a bad thing. Meanwhile, he's talking. Krypto comes in, all pissed off, grabs Lex, smacks him all over the place, ragdolls him, and it's kind of hilarious. Well, Lex is on his high horse. He gets humbled by his super dog. And they see on the news that while Lex is captured, Miss Tessmacher had fed information to Jimmy Olsen that showed all of Lex's plans, and it's being put on the news. So while Lex tried to frame Superman as an evil person trying to harm people, they got information to show that Lex was the person harming people and trying to do some crooked, scummy scam things to hurt people and overall get power from the people. They arrest him. At the end, Superman is able to kiss, and they have like a little special moment with the Superman Lois part. At the end of the movie, Supergirl comes, takes her dog, and then Superman gets back in his lair in his chair that he was in at the beginning of the film. He tells his robots, "Hey, play the video of my parents." And you think, is he going to play the video that he thought his parents had given him before? They do a little switch up where they show his actual human parents that raised him to be a good person. And he smiles in a pleasing way, and then the credits hit. And I'm like, what a pleasant film to watch. The characters were great. Superman had great chemistry with Lois. Lois played a big part, and not just like talking to Superman about his ideas, his beliefs, because she interviewed him in the film about, what are you doing, where are your lines, you're breaking government rules. And then she figures out about his whole little punk rock scenario. He's there to help people, to be a good person, and he's unapologetically going to help people and care for people and be a good person. I love their relationship, the characters. I love Lex Luthor played a good, jealous, smart villain that had a whole bunch of tech weapons and was a big threat to Superman. Guy Gardner was hilarious as Green Lantern, leading the pack of the Justice Gang. Mr. Terrific kind of stole the scene in a lot of stuff, especially with the fight that he does to get to the black hole. And Metamorpho, pretty cool character. I love how he looked. I love how he was connected and became a part of helping the Justice Squad. Overall, a really good film. So, plot great, characters great, chemistry great, action, loved it. And I also want to speak on the sets. So they showed Superman at the Daily Planet, where he does his news reporting with Lois Lane. Loved how it looked. Love how they incorporated the planet in there. Loved Metropolis' look. I love seeing the Fortress of Solitude look beautiful. I liked the black hole spot they were at. And I even liked the cities when they were doing their final fight scene. How they even went to a baseball place. The set made me like want to visit Metropolis. This is a place that if I would want to be Superman and live in this world. Good, imaginary, creative, fun world. So, ratings out of this film. For me, this movie is like a 12 out of 10. But I feel like for a regular viewer, if you're not like big on superhero stuff, I would give this movie like a 7.8 out of 10 for casual viewers. For me, it's like, this movie is phenomenal. I'm going to do more reviews in the future. Name is Denzel. Like, subscribe, and hopefully I can make more videos that you guys like. Let me know. Peace out and have a good day.